Yeah. Hi everyone. We'll try this again. Welcome to the vWTTC, guys, the World 24-Hour Time Trial Championships. My name is Rich. Alongside Riley, I'm co-founder of the online events company, and we're hosting this event. Yeah, welcome everybody. Hope you're all good. We've just got about 4 minutes until we start. We've got some fantastic interviews lined up. Hopefully, we'll be joined also by some riders as they're racing. We've also got a chat with the guys from Total Endurance Nutrition as well. But with just about 3 and a bit minutes to go, just wanted to wish everybody a massive good luck. Go out easy, guys. All right, it's a long old day in the office. And we will be chatting with some riders who hopefully will be able to give you a few tips along the way as well. Cool. Okay. So just about 3 minutes before we get going, just tell you a little bit about what we've got in store in terms of coverage generally. We'll be following the race throughout, guys. So this live stream will be running throughout the 24 hours. Don't worry, we won't be talking for 24 hours. You'll be pleased to know. But there will be live coverage. So we'll be doing an event show now for probably around another 30 minutes or 45 minutes or so. And then we'll be dropping away, and you'll still be able to follow how everyone's getting on through the live stream. Now, you'll see on the left-hand side, there is a leaderboard. Now, for the guys doing the event, who I know hopefully some of them are watching, you can scroll through the leaderboard as you go. If you've got any particular rivalries that you want to track. There is also the Wahoo RGT remote app that you can use. That's a phone app if you've got it or downloaded it, and you can use that to scroll through the leaderboard as well to keep track of how you're going. Just one thing to be careful with that remote app, because it is quite easy to end the ride accidentally, and with my chubby little fingers, it's something that I've definitely done within any race. We'll move on, but just about 2 minutes before we get going, and then we'll get cracking with some of the interviews that we've got. So we are running 3, 6, 12 and 24-hour time trials, and we will be checking in about 20 minutes or half an hour or so before the end of each ride. And just a quick reminder to any of the participants that are watching this feed, just try to make sure you end your ride pretty much exactly on the end duration, just to help us with collecting results. We'll obviously in verification and result collection make sure that we've got it to right down to a T, but if you can help us out by just ending your ride when your championship is finished, and that would be helpful. And also for the riders, if you have any tech issues, we're not RGT tech support, but we'll do our best. Drop us a message on social media, and we'll get in touch and try and help you out in as close to real time as we can. So don't worry if you have tech issues. We'll try and do our best to help you out. But hopefully everything should be running smoothly for you. So all that remains for me to say for now is thanks very much, everybody. Best of luck to you, and to those that are watching the supporting. Yeah, give them a hand, guys, and have those extra pair of dry bib shorts to hand, because it's going to be a long day in the saddle. And yeah, hopefully some fun will be had along the way as well, not just pain. But here we go then, guys. Just a few seconds till we get going. Best of luck to you all. Take it easy. 10. Okay, here we go then. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Off we go. Right. So that's us then, away for the 24-hour time trial championships. Let's just see how everyone goes off. Just seeing what sort of wattage people are putting out as they start. Yeah, so people going out quite hard there. a little bit of overexcitement perhaps, but I just want to say a big thank you whilst we're getting started. Big thank you to our friends at Race Across America, who we've been working in collaboration on this.
Can I drop because I have problems? I am Anna May, and I am not on the loop. I don't see Borrego.
Sorry, guys. This is actually the race commentary. So if you just keep yourself muted, if you drop us a DM on social media, we'll get in contact with you. But as I say, this isn't. This is the race commentary going out live. So what we'll do now, guys, is I think we'll have a little chat with the guys from Total Endurance Nutrition. So I'll bring in Sam now.
Evening, Rich.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, thanks.
È sicuro?
Sorry, that was missing me. Right. So you've you know what we're up to, and thanks very much for joining us the other day when we were talking to the guys in our workshop. I'm just hoping you just chat a little bit about what these guys really need to focus on as they're going through the race today. I mean, it's very easy for us all to say they need to focus on fueling and nutrition, but what does that mean in real terms? What are they going to need to really focus on?
Yeah, so I mean, fair play to you all for trying to do especially the 12 and 24 hours, like absolutely crazy. I do wonder what you're playing at, but yeah, fair play. It's not for me at all. But yeah, so in terms of nutrition, like hopefully everyone has prepared, let's say, for this type of event well, and that really means eating a lot of carbohydrate essentially over the last 36 to 48 hours and loaded up the muscles with glycogen. But we've started the event now, so we need to think about what we're doing during the event. And I think during the workshop we talked about having a plan, at least a plan A to stick to, and then you also need some sort of plan B, maybe even a plan C, just depending on how you're feeling. For the guys who are doing the shorter events, and I mean, if 3 and 6 hours is shorter, and it is in this context, I suppose, then the focus really is on the carb intake. So what we might mean by that is somewhere up in the region of 80 to 100 grams of carbs per hour. So you think about the intensity, it's going to be a little bit higher than the guys who are doing the 12 and 24 hour races. And so you're going to be working harder generally throughout that 3 to 6 hour period. And that's going to be much more carbohydrate dependent. And now we only have limited stores of carbs in the body, of course. And so you're going to have to make sure that you're staying on top of carbohydrate intake through this event. And that means almost, thinking about that from the gun as well. Not getting an hour into the event and thinking, oh, I need to start taking on something here. It needs to be straight away, because you're going to be burning through a lot of carbohydrate, certainly through the first sort of 1 or 2 hours as well. That's going to be, depleting quite significantly during these harder events. So yeah, 80 to 90 grams of carbs per hour through for the 3 and 6 hour guys. For the longer events, carbohydrates are still really important, and that's going to make up the majority of the calories that you're having over those periods, 12 to 24 hours. But we can also think about overall calorie intake more so for the longer events as well. We're talking about half a day or a full day of cycling here, and we can then, translate that into how we might approach a normal day's training. But also for these longer type events, the idea is to think about calories more so than carbohydrates only, which we do during the shorter events. So in terms of calories, we may be looking at somewhere between 400 to 500 calories per hour. And that's thinking about trying to offset to a certain extent what you're going to be burning during that period. And again, it's just about keeping on top of eating throughout this. And when I say eating, that can be a mixture of carbohydrate sports products, but you can also think about using protein and fat as well. So, even going for something like nuts, like even having like a protein yogurt is sometimes good, or like the protein yogurt pouches, just to try and help with getting extra calories in. Something like peanut butter is quite easy to eat on toast. That's a favorite, with a bit of banana on top. Again, jam on toast, but it's more about getting the calories in. When we've worked with people doing these crazy events in the past, they've also had their go-to material, let's say. So for example, one of the athletes we've worked with always liked trifle. So we had a lot of trifle pots lined up, ready to eat. But it could even just be like custard pots, rice puddings, things like this, just to get the calories in, but in a much, just in a varied way, really.
I love how this is probably got to be the only event I can really think of where if you didn't come with any plan, you can essentially make your plan up as you go along because you've got so much time to do it in. I think the main takeaway I took away from that though was that you don't wait on the nutrition. Get on it. Like, you don't have to go hypoglycemic before you start to put something in. And I think particularly if you're less experienced, and I know with my coaching hat on, when we take on kind of less experience in new athletes, it's one of the hardest things to kind of drill into them, is that you don't have to wait until you're struggling before you start to take fuel on board. And particularly with something like this, which is going to be, a war of attrition, if you're getting to that stage, well, it's over exaggerating to say that you've already lost, but you've already kind of put yourself in a less positive position. Yeah, I mean, in terms of fluids, have you got any kind of particular guidelines on that they might want to follow?
Yeah, so again, it's very individual because everyone has very different sweat rates, but with a broad stroke, we're looking probably somewhere between 500 to 1 litre per hour, depending on your individual sweat rate. And that, typically we would advise in these types of events. And I would say particularly for the 6, the 12 and the 24 hour, you might choose your fluids to be separate from your carbohydrates or your calorie intake. So the reason for that is then it's very easy to stay on top and count the calories or count the carbs that you're having per hour. So you can stay on top of that recommendation that I made just before. But in terms of fluid intake, you would want somewhere between 500 to 1,000 millilitres or 1 litre per hour. You're going to be sweating a lot, given that you're inside, typically going to be warmer, even with the fan or multiple fans going. And then we also need to think about having electrolytes in the fluid that you're drinking as well. So, typically we think about sweating, we're losing fluid, but we're also losing sodium. So we need to replace that sodium with electrolytes. So again, the rate at which you lose electrolytes, or the concentration of the electrolytes that you're losing in your sweat, varies from individual to individual. I have fairly moderate, sort of 800 milligrams of sodium that I lose in my sweats. So not too bad. Some other people might have much higher levels than that, and some will have lower. So it's very varied. But again, you need to stay on top of that straight from the gun here, particularly for the longer events, because as soon as you start to lose or, start to struggle to keep up with the rate of fluid that you're losing through sweat, and alongside that, the rate of sodium that you're losing through the sweat, that's going to have implications for like blood plasma volume, just for, you know, generally being able to take up carbs from the gut as well, and other food. So it's, you know, it starts to become starts to have an impact on your ability to fuel as well as stay hydrated and continue the effort as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In terms of, you know, so you just touched a little bit there about what's going on in the body. What is dehydration? Because everyone knows that we don't want to kind of get to that point, but what is are you able to explain a little bit more about what's going on in your body when you start to drift into a dehydrated state?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, you're just, you know, water is such a big component in our body, and so you're just depleting those fluids inside the body, and that they have really important, very, very basic level. They have important functions in tissue, and when I talk about tissue here, we're talking about muscle predominantly, because that's what we're using to you know, fuel this event or move the pedals. It's going to have it's going to have implications for how your muscle contracts, for example. Also, if you're starting to lose a lot of fluid and not maintaining or keeping up with your fluid losses, then that can have implications on the brain as well. So everyone's probably aware, you know, when you feel dehydrated, then you sometimes get a headache, for example, is the problem. And so that it's ultimately going to affect your cognition ultimately down the line, and you also don't want to be completing this event with a headache by the end of it. And I think, going back to the point in terms of fluid intake, particularly for the 3 and the 6 hour guys, where their sweat rates are going to be probably a little higher. So we probably look at going more towards the 750, 1,000 mils per hour for those guys. The guys who are going longer, okay, the intensity is going to be lower. Sweat rates are probably going to be a little bit lower as well. But as we talked about with the calories or the carbs, it's about getting on it straight away, because you don't want to end up in that dehydrated state where it's starting to have implications for muscle function, or it's having implications for cognition, things like that are really important in these types of events.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things as you were talking there, I was just thinking about, for some people, this is the middle of the night. Some people, we've got people joining and it's, sort of 3, 4 a.m. We've got some people joining when it's going to be, the evening time, morning time in, West Coast US or whatever. I mean, how is that going to have an impact on your ability to kind of ingest food? I mean, say for example, it's the middle of the night for you, and perhaps your body's not so disposed to taking on tons of calories. I mean, do you reckon that's going to have a bit of an impact for people?
It could have a little bit of an impact. I think, your body's going to be crying out for some calories as well, just given the length of time that people are exercising here. So that's going to be overriding perhaps those feelings that you might not want to eat, or that you might normally have when you wake up, maybe at midnight or something like that. But on those occasions, you need, this is where the flexibility in the plan comes. So you might have your plan A, and this, I'm going to eat every 20 minutes and it's going to be this many calories or this many carbs. And they might be in a gel format, or it might, I'm going to have some through a drink. But this is where having a plan B or even a plan C becomes important. Having alternatives that you can go to. We've all, probably if we've done these types of events before, you get to a point where you want something sweet. So you go, well, okay, I need to switch to having something a bit more savory potentially, or I don't want to eat anymore, so I need to think about maybe drinking some of the calories. So I think that requirement for the calories that the body's going to be putting on you is probably going to override some of the normal rhythm of eating that we would encounter through the day, and those feelings of hunger. But I think going back to that point, if you don't feel hungry, you probably, that's important to consider, and maybe not react to that in a way, and in the way of not eating, but you do need to override that and eat ultimately, even if you're kind of not feeling like it, especially if it's the 12 and the 24 hour, because as soon as you start falling behind on your calorie intake or your hydration, it's kind of a slow death in that sense. If that starts to happen.
So you kind of already answered this question, but we couldn't tempt you to do this next year then, do you think?
It's funny. We supported a guy doing a Deca Ironman this year. So 10 Ironmans in 10 days for those that don't know, although I'm pretty sure everyone does who's into this type of thing. And I before I helped with that, I would say never. Having been there and watched him for quite a few days put himself through the mill and the sort of camaraderie that comes with it, maybe tempted. So maybe this is the same sort of thing in that case, that you see what people are achieving here and you think, actually, this is crazy. Maybe I need to get involved in this. I'm crazy to a certain extent. I enjoy Ironman, so there is something there to probably tempt me, I would say.
I was going to say, like, I know what you can do in Ironman, and so surely that 6-hour one. I think actually you should have a look at some of the results from the real world event, because I think you might fancy having a go, and also it's a trip to California as well. But you should have a look at the results for the real world event, because I think you do pretty damn well there, mate. Cool. Okay, right. We should probably let Sam go about and have his dinner. But do you have any other last words of wisdom for our crazy 24-hour riders?
It's more a plea than any words of wisdom. Please keep eating and please keep drinking, because you ultimately need to enjoy this. Enjoy in the commas, but it's going to be not much fun if you don't do that. What I would say is you have to embrace it in terms of the fueling here. This is an opportunity to eat and eat and eat. And if you enjoy eating, then this is brilliant. So that's my words of wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few occasions where you can really get away with that. So fair enough. Great. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Sam. Really appreciate it. That's Sam from Total Endurance Nutrition. You can find the link to their website on the event page on the online events company webpage. And particularly if you're you take this stuff pretty seriously, your triathlon, your long endurance, cycling, etc., I'd really check it out, because as just having this little chat hopefully emphasizes it's a big part of the game. It's a really big part of the game. It's your fuel essentially, and definitely worth getting right. So have a look, check out their page. You might be busy right now, but maybe later. But thanks very much, Sam. I really appreciate it. And guys, if you've got any questions that are fueling or hydration related, do feel free to ping them to us. You can hit them on the live stream comments, or you can direct message us on social media, drop us an email, whatever you like, and we'll try and get some answers out of Sam and the team when it's daylight hours, and we'll try and come back to you. But yeah, thanks very much, Sam. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Rich, and good luck, everyone. Keep pedaling and all that. And definitely keep eating.
Definitely keep eating. Yeah, exactly. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Cool. Right. So we're just about 16 minutes into the race. Hopefully, you guys are all still feeling very comfortable. Just a couple of coaching points, really. So as you see from my logo, I'm also a triathlon and cycling coach. founder and head coach of React Fitness. Just a couple of top tips I wanted to put out there. It might be a little bit too late, but hopefully you've all got helpers out there who can do things for you. So there's some really unique aspects to indoor racing. And I know we've got a lot of experienced racers here, but for those that are perhaps a little bit less experienced, in terms of your setup, guys, and the atmosphere you're riding in, ventilation is key. Okay. Having a fan, absolutely wonderful to help try and kind of cool down the skin. But guys, get here. If you've got someone around you, or you can take a quick break and you haven't done so already, get those windows wide open. Okay. The main reason for that, guys, is if you've basically got a closed room, windows are shut, you're going to be pumping out a lot of fluid through your breathing. You may not be sweating yet, although you probably are. You're going to be pumping out a lot of moisture through your breath, and obviously as the room fills with that moisture, it's going to decrease the amount of basically breathable air. I know from personal experience from e-racing, it can have pretty bad consequences. Fated a couple of times maybe. So get those windows wide open, and also for those that are somewhat less experienced, maybe this is your first crack at an endurance event. Again, with my coach's hat on, build into it, because it is a long day in the office. It's more important that you finish hard rather than go out hard and try and hold on. Cool. Right. Let's see if we can get some more of the race footage going and have a little check on what's going on. Hi guys, it's me again. So we're back, and we've got some great chats coming up. So we're actually going to be talking to some of the riders that are in the race as they're going. So we're going to start off by having a little chat with Sabine, who is kind of one of our known riders, one of the riders we've been chatting to before the race, and we expect to be doing a good job out there. So not to put too much pressure on her or anything, but yeah, I just wanted to introduce Sabine. Firstly, I believe you're out in Western Australia. I think my first question to you is like, why aren't you on a beach? What are you up to?
Can you hear me?
Can, yes. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sorry. Yeah, good. Yeah, well, I'm on the beach. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. It's a little bit cold for the beach at the moment. But yeah, to be honest, I'm not really much of a beach person. I'm much more of a forest person, or at least sitting on the bike somewhere. But yeah, no, the beach is not for me so much. I love it, don't get me wrong, in terms of riding past it.
Do you say 2 a.m. there?
It's 2 a.m. Yeah, it's a lovely morning. Got all my blinds shut.
What's your operation been like getting ready if you're starting at sort of 2 a.m.?
I work night, so it's probably not a bad idea for me to start late anyway. I can't even tell you what the preparation is, but I had a really good sleep early on. I had a massive dinner, probably too much. Yeah, I really burn these calories right now quite quickly because I felt really guilty. But yeah, I had a monster tight away. It was great.
I think you might get away with it this one time. It's how calories you're probably going to be burning.
I wish it was one time only.
So what's going to be your approach for the race? I mean, you're a bit of a, well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your racing and training experience and how you're going to approach this race?
Yeah, I've done a few 24-hour races, mainly on the road. From experiences, I'd rather go off a little bit faster, not flat out, but a little bit faster, and then settle into my rhythm. So right now, hanging out with these guys from, I don't know, England, Switzerland, Germany, I feel quite happy here right now. So it's nice to fall into rhythm. I try to find that rhythm as quickly as I can. And I think I'm in there now. That heart rate of mine will definitely calm down significantly soon. I just hope it will be as late as possible. So really, it's an all-in approach. Exactly the opposite to what you suggested.
Well, it's great to know that all the sort of like the coaching and nutritional advice that we've been putting out there has been well received.
I do appreciate the nutritional advice a lot. That's something that we've been working on for years, quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm part of a racing team as well, and I'm trying to get better at it over the years. The good thing with endurance riding is that you need to be a bit older in order to be good at it. So I'm working on that approach. But now the carb intake is super important, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm working on that part a lot. The good thing is about the carb intake, you may suffer a lot when you do it for the first time, but you can actually train your body or your stomach to accept more and more carb over the years. And that's what I've been working on.
That's a really great point, actually. Yeah, I think that's that's a really great point, because when we work with Total Endurance Nutrition a lot, and when we use their nutritional protocols, particularly when we've got people doing Ironman or ultra distance bike events, and that's one of the things that people are quite shocked with initially, is that when you say those big carb intakes, like that's a lot of carb when your heart rate's high and you're moving, your digestive system's slightly hypoxic, etc. But yeah, no, that's a really interesting point that you make there. But
that's why even sorry, you are sorry.
No, crack on. No,
it's just like even like normal training hours, not just the preparation for an event. Like in the 3 or 4 months leading up to it, you can actually turn it around and really make your stomach accept that high sugar load, because it's a shock to the system initially. So you don't want to start with it when you start racing. You want to start a bit earlier than that, just to train it up.
Yeah, well, what is it that I like to call it? Old man strength, really. As I'm getting older, I seem to be getting a little bit better at some events and a lot worse at the more exciting events, shall we say? But one thing I was really wondering, because obviously you're a bit of a you've got the experience and you've done sort of RAM kind of like really ultra endurance events before. Like, how does the preparation or your approach change between a real world event and doing it virtually?
No, it's pretty much the same. I would like to treat this one, yes. I don't want to distinguish at all. Like, I don't want to change my habits either in terms of how I feel. You get a little bit, not superstitious, but you fall into a habit and you don't want to get out of this habit. Yeah. So the preparation will always be the same. A lot of hours, like a slow lead up into a lot of volume riding, not so much high intensity. Can't do that too quickly though, because obviously it needs adaptation for the body as well to get into long volumes riding. You get injuries if you do it too quickly, too much too quickly. So I've been doing this recently, and yeah, just volume. It doesn't matter whether you do it on the trainer or out there in the real world. Same thing.
Okay. One of the things I was wondering also was how have you? I mean, you may not want to give too much away, I don't know, to your competitors, but how have you? What's your kind of race plan sort of look like in terms of taking breaks? Have you got an idea of how you're going to approach that?
So this is new this year. Normally I've got a support person here. Today I'm actually by myself.
Oh, right, okay.
Which means I have friends coming over in, I don't know, a few hours to just check in. It's good of them. But no, this is actually the first time I probably don't have a race plan and just go with the flow. Mainly because I can't, if I get set on a certain goal at 8 o'clock or something, in terms of food or whatnot, and I don't have it here, then my plan is ruined. So I better don't make a plan at all. So I just go with the flow today, see what others are doing.
I love that. Well, I suppose it must be quite unique in the sense that hopefully you've got everything you need within sort of a few steps of you, rather than having
so too.
rather than having to stop at an aid station or something and hope everything's there.
Nothing ever goes smoothly in a race. You always have to have flexibility. Otherwise, just don't survive out there. Yeah, no, I hope so too. Apart from the toilet, that's not right next to me. But other than that, I should be okay.
I mean, that wasn't a question I was going to ask, but I would be wondering whether, how seriously some people are going to take this. Are they just going to go on the bike? Who knows? Incidentally, I have seen that done in an Ironman actually, and being caught in that person's slipstream as I was passing them, which was won't delve into that one too much. Okay, well, I've just got one kind of last question. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your jersey and the Cycling Development Foundation, because quite a few of the people that we've been speaking to prior to the event, it really seems that these sorts of events kind of attract a certain type of person, and they've all got really fascinating stories. I was just wondering whether you can kind of tell us a little bit more about the Cycling Development Foundation and kind of a little bit more about why you do this stuff.
Very quickly indeed. So it's a foundation in Perth, and what they do is they take care of the juniors coming through the ranks, trying to get them into proper racing. But then they also take care of a community project, and that's what I'm a bit more involved with, and that is to go out into the outback, into the bush of Australia, about 1,000 k's away, and then provide the kids there with bikes, do some skill session, ride with them, and they love it, and we do that every month. So that's something that I'm a bit more involved with. I just like the exploration part of the foundation's work, which is ultras, not so much the racing as such, but the ultra riding, the getting out and about, and just combining cycling with community projects. How good is that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a very good synopsis.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Sabine,
short
thanks so
version.
much. Thanks
No,
so
all right,
much
thank you very
for chatting to us. I'll let you get back to the middle of your race.
Thank you.
Take care. Right.
Cheers, thank
So
you.
I'm gonna move on to have a little chat with Brian now, if he's happy to have a little chat with us. I understand you're training for Race Across America solo. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's really today is about just going out, staying around 130 watts for the 24 hours, and just seeing how.
So that's a good point. Actually, you've got have you got quite a strict power plan? Like you're not looking to diverge from that 130 watts.
I did. So Harold Trees just went past me, who I know is in the No. Yeah,
okay, the racing started already, has it?
I'm going to be very strict on myself.
Good man. Yeah, that's what we want to hear. You're from our little chats and your bio that you sent us. It sounds like you've got a fair bit of experience in this sort of stuff, should I say? And my main question really to you is like, do you have any advice for? Because we've got quite a few people that are doing this sort of thing as their first foray into endurance cycling. Do you have any advice for any of those people that are first timers?
Yeah. For me, I would say it depends which race you do. If you're doing the 3 hour, maybe you go quite hard all the time. If you're doing the 6 hour, which I did last year, it was horrible. It was much worse than the 24 hour because you were trying to keep your power up. And I think my heart rate came out at about 158 for the 6 hours average.
Right.
It was probably a bit too much, I think. I crawled up the stairs from my dungeon. So I would say make your plan, decide what power you think you can hold, and then just try and stay on that. If you have more power at the end, or if there's somebody to chase, go and chase them. Yeah. And again, you keep saying about nutrition, so important.
Yeah, have you got any tried and tested methods that you've employed in the past that you would suggest to someone?
It's interesting because we're trying to change off doing food to just drinks, so that we can. It saves about 25% of your gut activity if you can do it on just drinks. God, it's boring, man.
That's yeah. I mean, I haven't. I've done lots of touring. I've done lots of Ironman triathlons, etc. I haven't done anything like this before, but I think that's one of the major challenges I was thinking about when we were working on this and building up to it. Like having that variation in fuel and hydration, like that's always one of the hardest things. So I find when I'm doing an Ironman, like when you get bored of what you're eating, your desire to eat, it just disappears. I mean, is variation in food something that you try and employ? And if so, like what do you eat?
The problem I get is that I tend to, even though I use things like zeros or none for salts, I still want that salty taste.
Yeah.
And they're probably the worst things. Sometimes I've been known to stop at McDonald's and really...
I love that.
And it's different when you're doing self-supported. So like Trans Am, you stopped where you could, and that's everything they had. Whereas in RAM, your crew should be feeding you all the time. Yeah. So it's a different plan. Probably in Trans Am, I ate about 8,000 calories a day and still lost 6 kilos. This is about 42,000 calories worth. Yeah. So sometimes you just can't eat enough.
So with the real world events, I mean, I guess a similar question to that I asked Sabine. Like, are you doing anything different now? I mean, one of the things that I always think. So, Gunnar?
In some ways, this is much harder because you're sat in the position 24 hours. There's no, there's no climbing on this course. So, which I'm a climber really, or somebody who climbs and descends okay. So I'm missing the climbing. But so there's no change. I have now just got to turn my legs for 24 hours around about the same power, sitting in the same position. So I would suggest people do have spare pairs of shorts.
Yeah, it's good that you say that actually, because that was I was figuring in my mind, I was figuring out how I was going to ask the question. But what is going to be? What's your protocol on keeping the old saddle sores at bay?
Because I do a lot, I don't seem to get many. However, I change saddles a lot normally, or bikes a lot that have different saddles on, which really helps. And in RAM, my day bike will have a different saddle from my night bike. So in this, my plan is to do different pairs of shorts that touch the saddle slightly differently. Yeah.
Okay.
So, different bits of you rub.
Yeah. So you just want regular coverage essentially over the whole area.
When I finished Trans Am, my wife said to me, "Your bottom is so bruised, it looked like somebody just beaten me. But no skin was broken." Yeah? So that was a real bonus. Because the second you break your skin, then there's all kinds of problems.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, that was, that was my main worry about doing, I would love to do this. Obviously I can't because we're behind the scenes, but that was my main concern about entering something like this is the saddle sores and just being sat in that one position. Because as you say, the Borrego Springs course that we're riding over, it's pretty much pan flat. There's about a single degree in gradient change over the course, and that actually, the lack of having to get out the saddle, there's no real like little kicks where you just naturally get out the saddle. I think that's a real challenge. So what's next for you then? Assuming you get through this and everything goes great and you're happy with it, what's next on the events list?
I won't be happy with it, but I will take it away and see what I did right and what I did wrong.
We're going to use it as our next advertisement. I won't be happy with it, but
yes, I do Tringles, which one of your events, and then I'll do an Everest thing, and then I've got some good camps. I coach camps out in New York.
Yeah,
and that will be great fun, but quite tiring. But it'll get me the mileage in. Yeah, so it's all nice fun. Yeah, people say I have a wonderful life.
That doesn't sound too shabby, to be honest.
It is nice.
So where are you? Where are you now? Are you in the UK?
I'm in Switzerland.
You're in Switzerland. Cool.
Yeah, I live in Switzerland. My wife is also racing this. She's doing the 6 hour. And we just put a team together for 4 ladies to do Race Across America called JSNC Rams. And the oldest lady, when she crosses the line, will be 80.
Whoa.
Oh, amazing stuff. Yeah.
I love that. I think, one of the things that I've been learning about as we've been working with the RAM guys is, chatting to them and chatting to people that we've got racing, is there seems to be like a real community around this stuff. I mean, obviously you're racing, everybody's competitive, but I do just love the way that people seem to treat one another. Is that kind of your experience of it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, people are happy to give you information. If you look at Christoph Straza, I asked him what he takes on the bike. and how he does his fueling. And he was quite happy to sit down with me and break it all down. And this guy's ridden 7 days, 16 hours for RAF, which for 3,000 miles isn't bad.
Oh, it's just like talking about this stuff is just kind of making me wince. I feel very privileged being sat in my comfy little chair, just talking to a camera. I mean, hats off to you guys that you do this stuff on the daily. Like I have a little bit of swagger about me just doing sort of Ironman events. Like you guys are, you guys are great.
I actually think every race you do, in some ways, is just as hard. If you do Ironman, because we've done like Lanzarote 5 times, Norseman, and everything is so hard, because you put every ounce of effort into it that you have. So, long or short, you have to be a brave athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Well, Brian, thanks so much for your time. We'll let you kind of get back to focus. And I think we've got Sean lined up to chat to next if you're available, mate.
All good.
Awesome. Thanks very much for joining us, Sean. How are you doing? How are you getting on?
Not too bad. Do you expect me to follow Brian? That's bad to follow.
Oh, I don't know, mate. I mean, I was really, when we were talking prior to the event, I love what you were saying about doing this for mental training. I mean, what do you expect from this, from that psychological side of things? I mean, you don't have to be a pro to know that this is going to be tough. Like, what is it that you're anticipating in terms of challenges?
Well, I think that earlier in the year, I only live an hour from the Borrego course, which also is strange riding on the wrong side of the road for me. So that's quite an aspect of it. But so in the race earlier, or last year's 24-hour race, it got bitterly cold in the middle of the night, and I was probably kilometers an hour wise. I was around 32K an hour for like 10.5 hours, and things were going pretty good, but my lack of experience, I just sort of didn't stay warm right away. I sort of stuck to my guns, and that was a bit of a mistake. So I'm hoping to get past sort of that, whatever that fatigue battle is. This is going to be way worse than riding outside. So that's what I hope to accomplish, is get past that hump.
I mean, just kind of on that, what would your advice be? Is it like, if something like that comes up, deal with it immediately, or, is it just you're going to have these battles and you just got to ride them out?
Well, because I'm new to this, and I started with as a kid road racing and stuff in 87, I've always had everything short distance wise. I became really good at racing criteriums.
Yeah.
And so over the years, as road racing in North America had sort of fallen off, I got out of masters racing at the end of all that and started doing double centuries, which 100-mile road race isn't a problem, but trying to go that fast for 200 could be a problem. It was for me in the beginning a little bit. I finished the ones I started, but I realized how hard it was. And I think the one thing that's great about these events, on most other cycling events, the finish line is very obtainable. And you can see the finish line 100 miles, 200 miles. It's very obtainable for a lot of people that ride bikes casually. It really is at the right pace. And stuff like this, where it moves the bar so far away, is how I found myself challenging myself to get a bit to grow as a cyclist. The community is really good as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the things that you mentioned when we when we were chatting. Have you made friends out of doing this sort of stuff, or just sort of like enemies maybe? I don't know. Competitors.
Yeah, I haven't. I think in this stuff, really the only enemy is yourself, and the easiest way to I kind of try and work backwards on you a little bit. And
okay.
Yeah. So what I end up doing is just, it's 24 hours. Most people can stay awake for 24 hours. So work everything else backwards. And that's my challenge. But no, I haven't made any enemies. It's all been great. And double century racing in this area has been really great for me to grow. And like I said, I only live an hour from this course. Now, mind you, for anybody here that's done the actual time trial course, it is extremely challenging, even though it's the desert. It's like 400 feet a lap climbing.
Oh, is that right? It's yeah. I mean, so we're riding on the real world course on RGT, and obviously that's a 7.7k lap. I know in the real world event, there's correct me if I'm wrong, there's an 18-mile loop, and then you move on to the 7.7k lap. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. The outline of this is that there's 3 laps out there, and this appears to be the medium lap. Though the distance is correct, it's just the shape of it. So
yeah. Cool.
Yeah, the flat lap is very flat. It's the same as this.
How have you found getting set up for a virtual event as opposed to a real world event? Has it been simpler in any way, or has it just been other challenges?
Simpler, because I don't have to sort of go through all the pain of hauling stuff around and thinking about most of the logistics of people helping me and stuff like that. But yeah, and it's comforting to know that I can just lay down on the floor right here and be, be fine.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing stopping you do that. Yeah, maybe we'll have a chat to you when you have your next lie down, and we can kind of see what the what the lay of the land is then. But right, okay, cool. So thanks very much, Sean. We'll let you crack on. Thanks very much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it. We'll give the riders that we're chatting to a bit of a break now, so they can just kind of concentrate, get into a rhythm. We've got a few more riders that we're going to talk to. We're going to take a bit of a break now and get back to some of the live action. And you will see that we'll be cycling through the riders. So you'll see, if you're watching the live stream, whichever channel you're on, you'll see yourself pop up, and you should be able to use that to kind of gauge where you are in relation to those people that you might be competing against. So thanks very much to those guys that we've just been chatting to, and we're going to shift back to the live action now.